Okay, so I want to demonstrate how VMware can be used to boot a suspect computer. So let's have a look. Let's first start. First I'll start and show you the virtual machine. So on this computer, I have an images directory, and I've collected some various images. Some are from, say, Digital Core. And here's one example. This is actually an XP computer. And there are two files here, if you see that one and that one. And I just want to get details on the command line. I could use the properties, but I'll just use that. So I want star E0 question mark, which just give me details on these two files. So it tells me they're read-only. In Linux, the R indicates it's read, and you don't have write or execute properties, and same with this one. So they're both read-only. Now, they're biggish files, hard to make out exactly what that figure is. So you can change the -L to a -LH, and that will show you in a human readable format. I am the owner, and it's also the group. So there's so those are the files. They've been created a while ago, January 31st and Feb the 1st of 2011. Okay, so these are a compressed image of an XP computer. Right, so what I want to do now is I want to create a virtual machine using this compressed computer. So what I'll do is I'll create a new tab. So this is my the Nautilus Explorer, the Linux way of looking at the world, and I want to go to /data. So I keep an images directory that contains all the details on all the images, and then a data directory with images. So I want to do this. 57-gene is the name of this code case. So I'll just create a case there. I'm going to create a virtual machine in there, so I'm just going to call this VM. Now, in order to access this, I'm going to have a mount directory, which basically means if I want to create a virtual file system. Now, I want VMDK is the code for a VMware virtual disk. Okay, so an VMDK. Okay, and I basically want to have some way of converting these into an image, and there's a program which will do that, which is called Xmount. Okay, so I want to run Xmount, and I want to say Xmount and -, well, you can type Xmount just to see. It'll tell you. You can read through that if you want. Actually, well, you can't, because it's just flown past the screen. But basically, you can step through it this way. You can use the less program to do that. Okay, but for the moment, let's just go. I want to convert the expert witness format. So you have to specify what the input file is, and you have to specify the type. So this is the expert witness format. You'll recognize that because it ends in E01 up to E0, however many of these. There's two of these files here, but it could be more. It could be just one. Anyway, I have to specify both those. So I need to get the directory. So I'm going to copy that directory, and I'm going to put that in there. And I'm going to have, and then the name of the file will be so I just copy that entire thing in there. Now I have to specify both files. In Linux, I can do that with the question mark, which means it'll match either a 1 or a 2. So now I've specified that the input is in the format EWF, and it's these two files here. Okay, now I want them to look like a VM. Actually, I'll just do it first with the VMDK format, and you'll see what Xmount does when I do that. Oops, it complains. Let's see what that is. So it says unknown command minus minus EWF. Yeah, I should have been minus minus in. So the input format is EWF. Okay, so now if I do that, you'll see there's this, if I do ls minus l vmdk, it has got this, I've got this 10 gigabyte file, which is a DD file. Okay, now I'm going to do, just to check in case you don't believe that's 10 gigabytes, I'll do ls minus lh, and you can see it's 10 gigabytes. Now if you remember, the original EWF files were 1.5 gigabytes and 1.4, so it's just about a little less than 3 gigabytes when it was compressed. But Xmount has converted this into a view, which is a 10 gigabyte file, and this is what VMware is going to look at as the actual disk. Okay, so we've created our disk. We have except that this is just the raw format, and I need a format for VMDK. Okay, so I'm going to change that. So just to remind you, the input format is relatively straightforward. You have to specify the input type, which is EWF. You have to specify the files that are in the input type, and then you have to specify a mount directory, where it's going to put them. Okay, so now I'm going to undo that, because, and you can do that with fuse mount minus u vmdk. Okay, and now if I do ls vmdk, those files have all gone. Okay, the 10 gigabyte disk has just disappeared. It was only a view of the file created by Xmount. So now if I go back to the previous Xmount command, I want it to appear as if it is a VMDK file. And now if I do ls minus lh VMDK, you can see there's now a VMDK file which can be used by NAS. Now there's one problem with this. This is a read-only file, and we need that to be rewrite, because Windows can't actually boot if it can't write to the disk. So let's unmount it again. We can unmount it again, and we can go back, except this time, instead of just mounting, I'll specify a cache file, and I'll call it gene.cache. Okay, and now if I look, you can see this image is read-write. So I will now be able to write it, and all the changes will go into the cache file. They won't actually change the original EWF file. They can't anyway, because that's a read-only file. Okay, so now let's go about starting up VMware and creating this image. Now VMware wasn't designed to do this kind of thing, so we have to fool it a little bit. We're going to create a new virtual machine. We have to specify that we'll install the operating system later, so let's do that. It's going to be Microsoft Windows XP Home, because that's the type it is. I'm going to change the name, and let's call it Gene XP. Okay, now the location, I want to actually put that into the into that data. So let's just into the date. Sorry, I need to browse again. Data slash cases slash gene slash VM. I want all the data associated with gene to be in here. So I'm going to make that Gene XP. Okay, so it now has a name. I can click on next. Now I have to specify a disk, even though I don't want a disk. I'm just going to do that. I'm going to get rid of it later, so it doesn't really matter. Let's make it 5. Don't know if XP can fit in 5. But anyway, so that's this. Okay, so I have to finish it. Okay, and now I have to edit the virtual machine settings. I have to get rid of the fake hard disk, and add Gene's actual hard disk. Okay, so I want to add a hard disk. Now I have tried IDE, SATA, and neither of those work. They will result in a blue screen when you try to boot it. So I'm going to, so SCSI, however, did work when I tried this earlier. I want to use an existing virtual disk, and then I want to browse, and I want to browse to /data. I want to browse to that one I've just created. Now if you remember, that was in the mount directory, vmdk, and there's the vmdk file, so I'll open that. Okay, so I'm going to just keep existing formats. Right, so I've created the disk. Now one thing you want to make sure to do is to disable the network. If you're powering the suspect's computer, you don't want to suddenly be downloading email and all sorts of things like that. So make sure to disable the network before you start. So I have a sound card, that's fine, and there's my hard disk. I save that and I power on. Just remember, before you actually power on, make sure the network is not connected. Okay, so now I'm powering on. Now there's all these funny messages that come up. Let's see what we can... Okay, so now Windows started off, yes, there's loads of messages. This happens when you start off with VMware. I need to remind me later. Okay, I don't want to do that. Never show this when starting up. Okay, now you go in there and you start Windows normally. When Windows stopped, it seemed to have stopped in a... When this image was taken, it seemed to start in a crash state. So we just started off there. And so now this is Windows XP in the virtual machine. Okay, and it's loading the settings. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go full screen so I can just see. Now this is the machine as it existed back in 2011. Okay, it was... so let's see then. It says, oh yeah, if you're in the middle of something, okay, don't send. We've no network anyway, we can't send. Just check to make sure you've no network. Okay, down there, and now you can look and just see. For example, you can see what the start menu is. You can see these programs, and oh, this is a bit disappointing. It doesn't look like there's any email. Okay, so let's get rid of that for a minute. Let's. Oh, you could start up Firefox and see if there's anything interesting there. And we can look at the history, for example. Show all the history, and you can see Firefox here, and you can see the history page. Now you might say, well, we can get all this information from a forensic software and something like that. You can examine the history. But the thing about this is you could take a screen dump of this and you could capture the screen from this. You could show them the history, and that most people will understand that far better than... Oops, what have I done? I wanted to show history. History, show all history. Okay, and I wanted to show... I seem to have deleted it. I think Firefox can do that sometimes, so it seems to have temporarily gone, but that's fine. I can restart and I can get back all this. But if you take screenshots, they are far more likely to resonate with people than if you present, say you've captured this stuff from a database or something. So in other words, as supporting documentation, this can be very interesting. Okay, so let's go out of that. Let's just log off administrator. I was administrator there, so let's switch user and see who else there is. Well, you can see, there's a lot of users here. Now, maybe not all of them were using it, but let's just have a quick look at Gene. Yeah, and let's have a look and see if I can see any history here. Show all history. Oh, and you can see actually, yeah, well, okay, so show all history, and you can see history there again. And as I said, you can copy that. You can screen copy that, and it's going to look very impressive in a report. Okay, let's see what else. There should also be Outlook here, and there's Outlook, and you can see a whole load of emails there. So again, obviously, this is fairly handy. You can use the standard Outlook tools. So search for contacts and things like that. And there's read the emails, obviously. So this is very useful. Okay, and you can see, well, you can use Outlook to search for it. And again, you can use take screenshots for this. This is very useful forensically. Okay, okay, so that's that. You can do a lot of useful things. Okay, and you can exit yes. Okay, so that's really all I wanted to show you in this video, is that with a little bit of work, you can take your EWF file, use Xmount to convert it into a VDMI file, and then you can use a VMDK file, and then you can use VMware to boot the operating system, and you can examine it. There were no passwords on this XP installation, which was certainly strange. There's a way to get around passwords if the disk is not encrypted. There's a relatively straightforward way to get around passwords, which we'll cover in a later video. Okay, so stop there.